All right, Dan's ready. All right, I'm going to call the Village Board of Oregon for Monday, November 1st, 2021 to order. Candy, roll call.
Session,
Here.
Elo,
Here.
Folly,
Here.
Glish,
Here?
Peterson,
Here.
Stitch,
Here.
and Wunsch.
Here.
All right, perfect. All right, we're on to 3, which is approval of Village Board minutes. We've got a couple different minutes here. The first one is 3A, which was the September 22nd, 2021 Village Joint Board meeting. That one I looked, it was me, Luke, Amanda, and Derek were at that one. So if we can get a motion in a second, we'll get that one approved. Derek and Luke, any discussion, questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then 3B is the October 18th. That was a regular village board meeting, which all of us were present for that one. So I'll take a motion in a second for that one. Amanda and then Mike. Any discussion, changes, anything? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and then Candy has asked for the June 1st, the June 15th, and then November 16th, if acknowledge that village clerk prepared the minutes, and these are the official minutes for those dates. We'll take, Amanda, give me a hand. I'll take a second to approve that. Carlene? All right, any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Perfect. Public appearances. This is public comment. This part of the agenda allows members of the public to provide information to the village board, including items both on and off the agenda. Anybody here for that? Not seen any. We'll go to We'll go to 4B. 4B is request from North Point Development for $150,000 from the Village Affordable Housing Fund for a proposed mixed-use residential development located at 831 and 871 Oregon Center Drive. Martin, you want to just give a little background, and
Sure.
then we'll have the folks come up.
Yep, so we kind of covered a little bit of this during the village budget process, but the village set up an affordable housing fund a couple years back when TID 2 was going to be closed. And so under the state TIF law, when you're going to close a TID, you can keep it open for one more year, and then all of the increment that you collect in that year can be used to be put into an affordable housing fund. And so the rules regarding that are pretty flexible, but basically a community can decide how it wants to spend those funds on affordable housing. And the village made or transferred $487,111 to an affordable housing fund in 2018 when TID 2 was closed. And so that money is there to be used for any sort of affordable housing initiative or grant or anything like that. Village has used it once for Genesis Housing. The village board granted $168,000 to Genesis in 2020. They made some improvements to their housing units, but other than that, we haven't had any other requests. So there's $340,000 in there, and then of course we have the 2 requests tonight.
All right, so.
Andy,
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, go ahead.
can I request that we combine items 4B and 4C on our agenda and discuss them together?
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Thank you.
All right, so should we'll have the North Point people just.
Yep,
give a
they're here tonight
Yeah.
if you want, if
And
they
then we
want
can
to
have
talk a
Habitat
little.
do the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? No, is it on? Better? Thank you all. I appreciate your time. My name is Sean O'Brien with North Point Development, and we're proposing to build 60 units of workforce housing at 831 and 871 Oregon Center Drive. You'll be seeing this project a little bit more in the coming weeks. We have a plan commission meeting scheduled for this week, and then hopefully we'll be back for a GDP approval in front of this group later in the month as well. But again, we're proposing to build 60 units. It would be a mixed-use project. The main funding source of that project is going to be WIDA tax credits. And that is a competitive process, and we'll be submitting our application to WIDA on December 11th, so just a little bit over a month away. And through that competitive process, one of the scoring items has to deal with leverage. And so we wanted to get this request in front of the committee at this point versus afterwards, finding out if we would have gotten tax credits to kind of help with that application, and then also to have some funds that are committed to the project. I know that Habitat is also requesting some funds tonight as well, and definitely would take a backseat to their request as a project goes. If there are enough funds, and that would be the willingness of the board, we definitely would appreciate any amount. We have asked for $150,000, but any amount would be just great to be able to put in with our application to WIDA on, again, December 11th. So far, we have obtained a little bit over $600,000 from the county, from their affordable housing fund, and there would be other soft grant funds that would be going after through the Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago and other various parties as well if we were successful in getting tax credits. So we wanted to make the request and just would appreciate the feedback and appreciate the conversation. And I'll step away. Let Steve come up here.
Yeah. Steve, do you want to come up and?
He's much taller. Good evening. Thanks for having me. I'm here mainly to answer questions, but I'll give you a quick overview. It's highlighted pretty much in the letter, but we became aware that the DOA at the state had some disaster relief funding through the CDBG grant process available. And so in applying for that, they've asked us to supply them with the pro forma of the project and, what some of the matching funds would be. So we put together the cost of the infrastructure, and we're going to be applying for a little under $500,000 from the state for the cost of putting in the roads, the sewers, the curbs and gutters, all that stuff, to try to bring our cost per lot down to a number that makes it more palatable for us to sustain our home ownership building over the years. Two things I'd just like to point out. One, we ran into a little bit of a engineering snag with the stormwater issue in that area. It's right off Janesville Street. I think most of you probably know exactly where it is, the old Bible camp grounds. Everything flows naturally away from Janesville Street. And of course, and we understand you don't want us draining our stormwater into the adjacent properties. So the solution is to pump that water back up to Janesville Street. Not unheard of, but certainly not something we were looking forward to doing, as it's very costly. Secondly, we initially wanted to build 10 units in that area, but in talking with the Planning Commission and some of you folks, it made sense that we could have a better neighborhood, better blend in with what's existing around there if we drop that down to 8. So that, of course, increases our per lot cost automatically when you divide that big number by 8 instead of 10. So we've got those dynamics working. The issue that we have, and we're working through those with Elise and some of the folks at the DOA, is that this disaster recovery lends itself more to the kinds of discussion that Sean has with WIDA and funders, where they're always talking about what's the gap. Well, we can find gaps all over the place, but the bottom line is we finance our own construction every year, and we build about 15 houses. And we're estimating that we're going to be putting about $1 million or a little over that into the building of our homes here in Oregon. I'm not talking about the infrastructure, I'm talking about after that's done, constructing the homes. And I did put a blank line on your spreadsheet so you'd know that we do not include staff time or overhead in what our costs are. What's in there is materials and the cost we pay for subcontractors. As you can well imagine, we need to have licensed electricians and HVAC folks out there, plumbers, to do the work. And we don't have those on staff, so we don't build quite enough to justify having one of each around to handle that. So we bring in subcontractors to handle that. The rest of it gets a little bit complicated, but I'd be happy to share it with anybody that wants to hear it out. But we become the bank after we build the homes. They're appraised, an independent appraiser, and then we sell the home to the homeowners at that price. We do not have a built-in margin. There's no such thing. But our magic to make it affordable is that we cap the payments that a homeowner makes to us over a 30-year mortgage at a little under 30% of their income. That has to cover the principal and the taxes, and if there's any HOA fees and whatever. And just like your conventional mortgages that you're very familiar with, that number doesn't change except for the tax portion of it. Let me back up. The number that doesn't change in that formula is what we collect for the principal on the mortgage. To complicate matters a little bit, we have a requirement internally to keep our solvency, if you will, of the first mortgage for any of the homes that we put homeowners in has to be less than 50% of the outstanding mortgages. So we write off at most, with the time value of money, a considerable amount the day we close on a house for our homeowner. I think you can all understand that if they're making a $500 principal payment today, that $500 is going to be worth much less in 30 years. And without interest, in the way the interest formulas work, I think some of you probably done enough math to understand what that's all about. We end up writing off about 65% of the mortgage cost as soon as we close the home. So there's a big gap in that. Now, the good news is that we do apply for and receive annually or every other year for a 2-year period some CDBG funding from the county and the city. Here, it's just the county, obviously, because we're outside of Madison. And we use that to assist the homeowner in their down payment, which allows us to get them under the 50% threshold that we like to have. But for every dollar that it costs us more to put a homeowner in a house, it actually causes us to increase the minimum minimum income level of our homeowners. It's, I think, pretty easy to understand that if we have to keep one thing at a 50% number and the high end, the appraised goes up, we end up maybe not serving that 30 to 32% of the area median income. So we try to keep our costs as low as we can. As you all know, the optic that everyone's familiar with, I hope, with Habitat is the community out wearing hard hats and pounding nails and hopefully wearing hard hats, but pounding nails on the homes and the community building for each other. And that's what we'll be doing out here in Oregon as well, having a lot of volunteers help. So what I put together was a request for the housing fund that includes some of those incremental costs that we incur for the construction of the homes. The whole project, it's not going to do us any good to put in all the infrastructure if we're not going to build affordable housing there. So in my mind, everything is combined. But for the sake of understanding it from this point, we're asking for some housing funds to take care of the actual admin considerations that the DOA is going to put on the grant. And you guys have already incurred some of that because you're going to be, I hope, addressing and approving a resolution tonight to move forward with the grant, because we can't apply for that. That's going to be applied for through the village. The ongoing expense of that is estimated to be about $20,000. And that's not our admin cost, that's just the cost of getting it taken care of over and above our normal overhead, costs. So that's one of the issues that's in there. I included a couple other of the funding areas that would help us if you'd consider allowing us to dip into the housing fund. Habitat, in closing, we are all about home ownership. We see all the benefits of people owning their own homes, and their homeowners own their homes just like you do. The difference is they put in over 300 hours of sweat equity building their home and building others. They attend financial readiness courses to make sure that they understand the budgeting and finance process to stay healthy in that regard. We actually have them take 2 other courses that I wish I took, 40 years ago when I was looking at houses, and that would be, how to maintain and repair. Even though I bought a brand new house, I was thinking, oh, this thing will never fall apart. And of course, I'm wrong. And secondly, we actually have a course called Be a Good Neighbor, how to be a good neighbor. And so all of our homeowners go through a significant amount of training before we place them in their neighborhood. So with all that, we would really appreciate if you'd consider the $180,000 that we're hoping for to help us bridge that construction gap. I was going down the one road, and I'm sorry I took a detour, but we do get CDBG funding. It's a HUD service. We have our 2 restores that generate revenue for us. And we also have the continuing mortgage payments. Even though they're going down in value, we add more to those every year. And unless we sell them to raise cash, we have those mortgage payments as revenue stream coming in. And we do raise a considerable amount every year from the local communities and individuals. That's how we finance our projects. In Sun Prairie, we do have one unique difference, and we are the developer of a large 117 lot development, and we're selling 60% of those lots on the open market. So we did finance that. If you go look around, you'll find out that we do have some financing in place to take care of that, and that was because we're gonna leverage those lots to repay the construction and line of credit and loan. We don't have that in this situation. We're gonna absorb the whole property and then build the homes for our new homeowners for that. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer if I can.
So do we have questions? We can have Sean come back up too. We can have either for Sean or Steve or both. All right, Sean, why don't you come on up and,
Sure. I did want to, I forgot to mention, I wanted to make a full disclosure if it wasn't in all your documents, but we have a parcel as part of our Sunbury development on the southwest corner. It's not in the residential area that we've been partnering with Sean on some plans to put in some affordable senior housing and a very small number of apartments for workforce housing. So we're partnering on that, just so everybody knows that we are buddies, put it that way, yeah.
all right, Mike, start us off.
Yeah, first, I want to make clear I support both of your projects. I think they're both really worthwhile, and they'll add a lot to our community to have more affordable housing. And your request for funding, that's what this fund was set up for. I got no issue with that. What I do have an issue with is that the combined effect of both of your requests is to deplete the fund down to $10,000. There is little to no chance that this fund will be replenished in the near future. We're 10 plus years away from closing another TIF and funding it that way, and the village has tons of other demands on its tax base at the moment. Our taxes are going up significantly. So what I'd like to ask you is, if we gave you 2/3 of what you're requesting, what would the negative effect be on your project? Because that would leave us $120,000 to be able to fund one more project and help one more project like yours.
The negative effect for Habitat would simply be to go back and work more with my development people and make sure they can raise a little more money. Not at all unheard of. We would welcome that assistance. We're not greedy from that standpoint. If you can help us that way, that would be great.
And for our project, I mean, the goal is to, get funded by WIDA, and then that's the majority funding source. So I look at it more as an investment partnership by the village in the project. And, you know, if it's a lesser amount that makes the village comfortable, it also leaves us with an opportunity to put together the rest of our financial capital stack and come back and say, we do have a need for the remainder, and you know, we're about to build the project, et cetera. But at this point, you know, we'd be, I wouldn't say negatively affected. Again, kind of to Steve's point, is you just have to kind of, you know, just go to the other resources that are available to the project. And full disclosure, I mean, I do believe that our types of projects probably have more resources available to it, like I said, through the Federal Home Loan Bank, or the county has a specific affordable housing fund. But some of those, like the county, we've already went to and gotten contributions or investments through those partnerships. So as far as would there be any negative implications, I would say no. We would want to, you know, then obviously, you know, try to fill the financing gap in other ways. And so once we are awarded funds by WIDA, we still have a financing gap that we're trying to solve. And this would be one way to do that, but there's others as well. And so again, it's the reason why we're asking now is to kind of help start, you know, filling that financing gap. And if the, you know, a lot of things still have to happen, right? We have to get through Plan Commission and board for approvals. We have to turn our application, be awarded. Otherwise, all of those funds would still be, you know, available for other projects as well. But as we step through that process, and if we're successful all the way through, then the end product would be the, you know, 60 workforce units for the village.
Well, I appreciate both of your feedback. If our funds were unlimited, I'd be happy to give you everything and then some. But they're not, and your project, both your projects, while they help resolve or make more affordable housing available, they certainly don't meet the entire demand. I just want to be sure that the village is in a position that it can help other developers as well, make our housing more affordable. So thank you both.
All right, other questions? Yeah, Matt.
So, first for North Point, what do you need from the village to demonstrate a commitment to making the funding available in order to demonstrate that to WIDA? And so that's my first question.
Yeah, my understanding is that the process would be that the village would vote on a resolution for the funds, to commit the funds to the project, and with that, we would, any sort of commitment from the village of the funds, either through a resolution or through a developer agreement, would be satisfactory to WIDA, and that would have to be included with our December 11th application.
So you'd need action by the village board on a resolution, for example, prior to December 11th?
Correct.
Okay. And then when would the funds for your project need to actually be dispersed and made available to you?
In that scenario, if we started construction in a year from now, let's say, you're probably another 9 to 10 months away from drawing those funds into the project. If we were to do this project, likely WIDA would be the construction lender, and we would use them, and they require all of their taxes and bonds go into the project first, and then the rest of the sources that are in the capital stack for construction would follow. So, you know, probably sometime in June or July of 2023 would be when the funds would be drawn.
So could this be, you know, a simple resolution indicating support for the project and a willingness to make the funds available at the appropriate time later, to be followed with an actual agreement, say after you get the tax credits awarded? Is that?
Yeah, they could be, it would be, if the language was more along the lines of, you know, the village is committing to provide X amount of the affordable housing fund to the project, subject to tax credit approval or tax credit award, that would be sufficient.
And subject to an agreement being prepared between the village and the developer?
Yes.
Okay. Same questions for Habitat, I guess.
I'm gonna first off admit I'm not an expert on the CDBG funding process, but my understanding is that as a municipality, you will be, as I mentioned earlier, considering a resolution tonight to move forward with requesting those funds. That's different than what we're asking for from the the Affordable Housing Fund. We hope to break ground at least on our first units in our next fiscal year, which will start on July 1. When you would like to fund it, they'll all close, sale close sometime before the end of June of 2023. Anytime within that time frame, and build it into the developer's agreement. However you would like to do that would be certainly satisfactory for us.
Okay, so an agreement sometime in the first 6 months of next year works for you?
Yeah, we have a little bit more to do to get the approval to build with your planning department and all of that. We got the concept design and it's been replatted, but we need to present the general development plan and get that approved. And then after that, I'm sure you'll provide us with a developer's agreement, and this could be in there. In Sun Prairie, as an example, we agreed to build a sanitary sewer interceptor and then be reimbursed by the city. They just accepted that. It's been built and tested and all of that. It's just in the developer's agreement that they'll reimburse us. So I don't know how it would want to be worded in this case, but if you'd provide the funds and reimburse Habitat for their construction, administration, and whatever, when the structures were closed, that would be certainly fine with us.
And so if you had action by the village board, say by motion or resolution, that would tell you that, yes, the board is authorized the expenditure subject to an agreement being prepared, when do you need the decision by the board, the action by the board, so you know that you've got that funding available?
I'm not gonna try to suggest to you that we're in a planning situation continuously, but we are. We plan as far out ahead as we can. So it would be helpful for us to know sooner than later that we have some funds available that we can apply to this particular project. Put an exact sunset on that.
Steve, you should have the 19th is when your application is.
That's for the resolution. Oh, they want the matching
I mean,
funds.
agreement.
Yeah. You guys probably didn't hear that. The 19th of November is when the application has to be submitted by you guys for the CDBG funding. And as part of that, they would like to know that you're adding the funds to committing to the funds to the project.
Yeah, so Steve, in our conversations with your consultant on the CDBG, it sounds like you need the resolution and an agreement by the time that you submit the CDBG application.
I believe that, I feel like I'm at the Senate hearing, I got my attorneys behind me. I believe that's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But we don't need a full-blown developers agreement.
Right.
We need an agreement that if we do this, you will
Right.
commit
Yep.
to the funds, yeah.
And that was November 19th?
December.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
said
real close to
November.
having everything put together, so we're on target.
Okay.
November.
That's,
November 19th, right? Yeah, so when we had talked with your consultant on it, we had kind of lined up every approval to happen on November 15th. Assuming the board is okay with the request tonight, we'll go back, we'll draft up that agreement,
okay,
and we'll get that on the 15th village board.
great. As far as dispersing of the funds, everything else I said is true. We're not asking you to
Right.
disperse funds tomorrow night. We don't need them until whenever your
Yeah.
developer's agreement
Yeah.
says you'll reimburse us.
Okay.
Yeah,
If that's okay with the state.
And just to clarify too, the board did approve the authorizing resolution for the CDBG application at the last meeting. So all the remaining approvals, this request, there's a couple other resolutions that need to be adopted by the board for that application. Those will all be on the 15th.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So I think we need to continue our discussion on the amounts, I think. Carleen? you
Well,
wanna-
I have a question that's not really for them. It's
Okay.
more along, and it was the question I had before I came tonight, along the lines of what Mike was saying. Dispersing all of this would diminish the fund to $10,000, from what I understand from what you wrote, right,
Yep,
Martin?
yep, that's correct.
And so this came out of when TID was closed. Is there anything foreseeable in the future that would help to replenish this kind of fund? Or, is there any move on the part of, has there been, I don't know the history of that kind of thing, that would continue to replenish some funds into something like this for future?
Yep, so if we did it the same way that we did it before, if we did it through a TID closure, the next TID that will close will be TID 3, but that could be 10 years, as Mike had indicated. Otherwise, it could be funded by a transfer from some other village fund of available dollars. Maybe a grant opportunity in the future could come up for housing from the state or federal government that we could use to put more funds in that fund. But right now, if these funds were to go, we would probably be left with 10,000 and not a known source to replenish it at this point.
And we have identified more affordable housing. We just want to affirm that, not, this is not a question, it's just an affirmation. We have identified this as a top priority. So, wow. I don't have a solution, just a statement, that's all.
So I think this actually, Carleen, you're right, this has been a priority for us for several years. And so this would actually be our fourth kind of project. And I do believe when we gave, I don't know this for a fact, but when Genesis came and we gave them some money, I think it really sort of did help them. And I think, Sean, I don't know if they had done a federal grant through the bank, that Chicago bank or something. And I think that our contribution to that grant, they got $800,000. And I think my impression from talking to them is that really helped them get their grant. I get that we would deplete the fund, and it'd be great if we could find another way to sort of replenish it. But I think these are exactly the types of projects that it's a priority for us. I think these fit what we're looking for. So, yeah, Amanda.
Yeah, so just to be clear, these TID 2 affordable housing funds don't expire, right?
Nope.
We can
They
keep them
just-
as long as we want.
Nope, yeah, we extended it for a year, we collected the increment, it was about 487,000, goes into a fund, and then it's however you want to use it for affordable housing.
Okay. And then, do we happen to know if there are any other affordable housing projects that might be coming our way? Have there been other nibbles, other developers that have approached us where we think we reasonably might have a need for more funds, like in the next few years?
I can't think of any.
I mean, I'd hate for us not to give all the money and then not have any other projects come
Well,
along, because 5-6 years from now, we might have a way to replenish more funds.
Yeah, Jeff?
The only thing I can think of is, as we talk about the future development downtown, and with the senior center, that has been a discussion at times that there might be a partnership with a private developer to develop something that would be multi-story senior housing with a senior center below. So that's been something we've discussed publicly about before, so I could see that being a part of that.
Yeah, Matt?
The other thing I'll mention is that another project that has substantial village financial participation is the Lakestone project. And the village's support for that project is in the form of TIF funding. So, you know, one of the things that I'm thinking is that this fund is nice to have when you don't have TIF available. TIF isn't available to support these projects, so it's not an option. But on, like the project that Jeff was describing, if we did a project like that,
That would be TIF eligible.
we'd probably be looking at trying
Correct.
to use TIF and put that in a TIF district to help facilitate that. So I like this fund as another option that you can look to when you don't have TIF. And frankly, beyond TIF and this, those are the only two options you have that I know of to help a project like this.
Besides a grant, you can always do a grant.
You mean a village-funded grant?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you're going into your general tax revenue, which, as you know from your budget process, you know, is largely committed to other things. And so to have funds available that are a little more accessible for something like this, it's this fund and it's TIF, and that's about it.
Okay. So Sean and Steve, I just want to ask this, just so I am clear. If we were to reduce it to what Mike was suggesting, to make it 2/3, you guys would be okay. You could survive. You wouldn't, it would be all right. Yes or no?
On behalf of Habitat, our hands are out. Yeah, the help you could provide us would be greatly
Okay.
appreciated.
I mean, it's good for us to know, but if we're gonna make a decision here. Sean?
Yeah, same goes for North Point. Again, we're trying to fill a gap on the project, and any bit that the village would deem, acceptable works for us as well.
Okay. So,
Sorry, I got two
yeah,
more.
yeah, Matt.
One, on the WIDA project, you used the word leverage, and I want to
Mhm.
make sure, maybe not everyone understands that you get points in your application for tax credits if the village makes some funds available, is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah,
Okay.
so and then we also get, part of the threshold documentation has to do with how much of your project has committed sources. And so you are correct that there is a point category for other, basically for how much of the project is funded without tax credits. And then, there's also a threshold, category which talks about having a certain amount of your funds already committed to the project. So, yeah, two different ways that funds would help.
Okay, so my second question is, if the village board approves on the lower amount that they're talking about, and you move forward and you get support from other sources, but you still have a gap that you are unable to fill, will you come back and have a conversation with the board about that before you walk away from the project?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's a great way to proceed, where, we could get the commitment for the 2/3 amount, if that's the desire of the board. And if we have a, glaring gap at the end, we can have conversations about possibly looking at this fund to help with that after we've, gone and tried to find other resources as a last resort type discussion.
And Matt, that leverage that you're talking, that's what helped Genesis, that we provided. It helped them get it.
But if we commit less, does that mean that WIDA would commit less? Or-
No, we would
Okay.
ask for the same amount of tax credits through WIDA regardless, and then it's just a matter of getting enough gap financing afterwards. So it's a steady amount of benchmarks of pulling everything you need together. So it's like entitlements, yes, we got that done. Tax credits, okay, and then you got to keep getting your way all the way to the ground breaking and ribbon cutting. But there's a lot of cliffs that we have to avoid on the way there.
Okay.
So Mike, did you do the math for us?
Oh, I just, back of a notepad sort of thing,
Okay.
yeah.
You had a
Um,
comment, but, yeah.
Would this reduce your leverage in the WIDA application?
The reduction to 2/3 wouldn't affect the total points that we would get, so it wouldn't affect the competitiveness of the application.
Okay, excellent.
So what's the pleasure, so Mike, what would the amounts be?
Well, it'd be $100,000 for Habitat for Humanity, and I don't have a,
120, it'd be 120 for Habitat.
well, 120 for Habitat for Humanity and 100,000 for North Point Development.
Okay. So what do other board members, how do you feel about that?
I have really mixed emotions about this part. I kind of want to give them everything they want.
Yeah.
Because we don't have anything pending and because of the possibility of TIF support for a senior center affordable housing combination. Habitat is really near to my heart, so I want to give them everything, quite
Yeah.
frankly, sorry. My dad was a volunteer until they had to retire him because the insurance would no longer cover him because he was over 80 and he had Parkinson's. So,
So,
You know,
so Carleen,
that's-
I would say, for me, I would agree with you. I was worried about the $10,000 balance, but because Matt brought up the possibility of TIF, that makes me want to
give them everything
help
they
them
want.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know, other board members. Jerry?
Yeah, I think if, I agree with Carleen that, especially Habitat's been a long-term builder of homes for the housing market in town here. So I especially want to honor their request. And I think, going forward, if a project comes along that we really feel strongly about, we'll figure out a way to find the money. Right, Martin?
Martin's got it in his back pocket.
Jerry, is that you?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. Yeah, really.
Take his temperature.
No, I mean, I know it sounds good not to deplete the fund, but
Yeah.
the reason we created this fund is to use it to get projects like this off the ground. So I guess I'd try and motivate
All
my
right,
colleagues to.
Mike
vote this.
wants to jump in here.
Yeah. I'm not gonna argue strongly on this. I mean, I support both of these projects. I think they're excellent projects. However, a year ago, no one at this table knew of North Point Development, this project, and a year and a half ago, nobody knew of Habitat for Humanity. So we have no idea what's coming over the horizon. I'm concerned about the amount of money that we shell out in TIFs. They don't, I mean, TIFs are not free to taxpayers. TIFs are money that we're taking out of taxpayers' pockets now that we're not gonna see back for 30 years, okay? I'm dead by the time that money comes back. Many of the people at this table are dead when that money comes
You
back.
gonna live that long?
No, I'm not. Hopefully not. So, I think we need to be somewhat fiscally responsible and realize all the things that we have sitting on our plate and take, these wonderful developers at their word that this doesn't kill their project, that they can work forward on it and contribute what we can, but also keep something in our back pocket. Because the two of these projects alone will not resolve affordable housing. We need to look at more.
Mhm.
Okay.
And now just, if I could make a
Yeah,
comment.
Jerry.
I just want to dovetail onto the TIF thing that Mike mentioned. And Mike makes excellent points. However, if we do pay-go TIFs, it costs the taxpayer nothing. Because at the end of the year, we take the amount that's been paid by the developer and we turn around and we reimburse the developer by that amount. So, I think we'll just have to be more selective on the TIFs going forward, if
Okay.
we do this.
All right, anybody else want to weigh in? Otherwise, are we ready for a motion?
So we, yeah.
Right.
So we would need direction to draft these agreements, draft these resolutions if needed, and we would bring them back for approval at the next meeting. So I guess a motion could be to direct staff and the village attorney
For the amounts.
for the
Okay.
amounts that you prefer.
Okay. Someone want to,
I can do that.
all
So I'll
right,
make a motion to direct village staff to draft a resolution, right? I'm stating a motion to draft a resolution.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I would grant both entities the amount that they asked for. That's what I would do.
so Carly, in the North Point, 150,000, and Habitat, 180, 920.
920, whatever that was.
All right, do we have a second? Amanda? Okay, any other discussion?
Can
Yeah.
I just say, Michael, even though I'm not supporting what your idea was, really, really appreciate your outside-the-box thinking and your
Mhm.
wanting to watch village dollars and get more affordable housing, so.
Yeah,
Just wanted to say
absolutely.
that for it.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, gentlemen,
Okay.
you're set. All right, we're on to 5, proclamations and announcements. We have in your packet upcoming meetings and events. For you, anybody have any questions on that? We go to 6. 6 is reports of village officers. 6A, we have Martin's village administrator's report. If anybody has any questions for Martin, pretty detailed. Seeing none. 6B is Director of Planning and Zoning, same thing from Elise on her activities.
Can
All
I
right, yeah.
just say
Yeah, Amanda.
I'm glad you enjoyed your Friday off to play
Yeah,
video games.
everybody
I
saw that one, Martin. Oh, video game player, oh, okay.
Check to see if you're reading them.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, we were, everybody saw that one.
Didn't want it to go by without comment, lest you think we are not reading.
Yes.
I just would like to say one more thing about, I really appreciate this grid of projects and tasks.
Yeah.
Because it just puts it all together in a place where I don't feel like I have to go back and forth, and then I can ask questions. So I don't have any, just wanted to comment.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, 6, I think that's supposed to be 6C. Village Department Head Staff Consultant Comments. Jeff's up first, he's got something?
I just have a quick comment. Probably noticed that North Main was getting the final lift of asphalt today, and they'll be finishing tomorrow, weather permitting and equipment permitting and all of that. So that is, Dane County is wrapping that up. And I actually saw two-way traffic on North Main, north of Netherwood this afternoon. So this afternoon. So I think the end is in sight. They should be out striping and putting in the bike lane, all that kind of small patch and fix type stuff the rest of this week, and hopefully wrap that up completely, but it should be open very, very soon. It's been a long process.
Quick
Yes,
question.
Jake.
Have you had many complaints about that? No, I mean, has it died off?
I think a pretty normal amount of complaints, and honestly, I would even hedge on calling them complaints, because they're concerns, you know, and it's taken much longer than I think, or Dane County anticipated. There was a lot more undercut that had to be done, over excavation and placement of some material. My concern not necessarily is always the timing on a project. I know it affects businesses, but it's the quality of the project. And everything I've seen so far has been a very good, high-quality product, and when that transfers, actually, I think it jurisdictionally transfers today.
Really?
Yeah, I think today is the agreement, so it's ours.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, we're beaming.
Yeah.
But no, when it jurisdictionally transfers to the village, I'm confident that they've done a nice job, and that we have a good road that will last us for a long time.
So you'll be maintaining that from here on in, right?
We will be plowing North Main Street from downtown to McDonald's this year.
Okay, good.
All right, who else?
Ready?
Yes,
I have something.
all right.
So, today, Governor Evers declared a proclamation designating today Election Hero Day. So I just wanted to make sure that I gave a huge shout out to all the village's election workers.
Absolutely.
And thank you for everything that they do. They make our jobs a lot easier, so. And we shared the proclamation on our Facebook page too, so we wanted to.
All
I
right,
would add to that a shout out to Candy for coordinating it.
absolutely. Jennifer, I'm just wondering if you want to say, maybe just remind people about Wednesday, if you don't mind.
Sure. Martin included in his event under 5A, so we did schedule 3 listening sessions as your request. And they are Wednesday, November 3rd, starting at 6:30 p.m. here. They are Tuesday, November 9th at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. And then Saturday, November 13th from 9:30 a.m. to noon. So the 2 in-person sessions will have an informational component, and then a question and answer section, and then public comment. There is also an online public comment form for individuals who don't want to speak at one of those meetings or who can't attend. excuse me, OCI Media will be recording and live streaming all of those sessions, so folks will be able to view them live from home. If you go to our website, the event calendar has the link to watch the live stream. And appreciate the board members who said they are able to attend. Again, if you can attend, we'll make sure you have those links to watch the recording afterwards so that you can hear those comments. We'll also be compiling all the public comments that we receive by the online form so that you have that available for a later meeting date. Does anybody have any questions or anything? Does
And
that
Jennifer,
cover-
I'll continue, I'm assuming I'll get more emails, well, I'll get emails, and I'll forward you the ones that I get, so you have them for the,
Yeah, so
the
what Randy's
library board.
referring to is any emails that either come to him or the village board, but not the library board. He is forwarding those all on so that our library board is aware of all those comments, and they are getting those kind of in groups. So they are seeing every email that you or Randy gets from a constituent.
Okay. Chief, anything from you or Rachel before we go on? Chief's got something?
Yeah, just briefly, and I sent an email earlier today. We did have to postpone the K-9 retirement event, but we will have a date out as soon as we can find a venue. It's just getting too cold, and then we got some staffing things going on, so we're gonna try to find a warmer place where we can accommodate
Okay.
some space.
Okay, thank you. Rachel?
The only thing that I would note is that the senior center will be closed on Friday, November 12th in the afternoon for staff in-services. So after we get all of our lunches delivered and out and our adult day program attendees sent back to where they live, we'll be closed for in-service.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Jennifer's got something
I
else.
just have one more thing. We're also doing a fundraiser, an online pottery auction. We had a local potter who donated a lot of his pottery that we sold outside during the pandemic, but we have some remaining pieces that we are doing an online pottery auction between now and November 14th. So the link is on our website. You can bid online, see what's available. Those are also on display in the library so you can see what you're bidding on. So great for gifts for yourself or for somebody else.
All right, thank you. All right, let's go to 6D, which is village board comments. Anybody have anything tonight? All right. Let's go to 7, communication miscellaneous business. We'll have the approval of the vouchers, and we got a total of 571, 147.86. If we can get a motion in a second, we can take some questions. Jerry and Derek? Okay. All right, who's got some questions? Now, Lisa is not here. Lisa is on, had surgery, is it knee surgery?
Medical leave, yep.
Yeah, so she's not here, but we'll make some of these other folks try to answer them. We can. So who's got something? Anybody? All right. We'll take Luke and then Jerry.
It just stood out to me, that's all. It's 5796 in the amount of $12,987 for tree and brush shedding charge.
Oh, yeah, that's Jeff's.
Shredding charge.
Shredding charge?
Yeah.
Jerry loves this one.
This one, it pains me as well. Twice a year, we have a company come in, and that brush pile that gets the size of
Yeah.
several homes out there gets reduced, and the wood chips get hauled away.
Okay.
And so that's a service we pay to have done twice a year, and it's a service we provide for the village residents. I think it's a great time to remind people that that is for village residents only, not for contractors, not for out-of-village residents, which we have had some problems with that in the past. But thanks to police have been kind enough to issue some people reminders of that. But yeah, that's what that charge is for.
Thank you. All right, Luke. Anything else, Luke? All right, Jerry.
Sure, so that's twice a year?
Twice a year.
It seems a little lower than it's been in the past. isn't
That's
it?
actually a little higher than it's been in the
Really?
past. Yep.
Okay. Sorry I brought it up then.
I know. You know, twice a year, that used to get struck by, or Mark Bielo used to say that pile would get struck by a lightning once to twice a year. I think routinely, I think was.
Back in the old days, it sure did.
Back in the old days, it used to
Yeah.
accidentally burn down a couple times a year,
Yeah.
but I think that's changed since.
I have a question on, I guess if I put these on, I can probably tell you. 3005, Fox and Sons, they relocated a hydrant at McDonald's.
Yes.
Why?
That was as part of the roadway reconstruction for North Main Street. It was
Okay.
gonna put a fire hydrant, since we're redoing the curb there was a slight change in the curb, and it was gonna put it just too close to the traffic lane. So we hired Fox and Sons to move that back about 4 feet.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that it, Jerry?
That's it.
Okay, anybody else? All right, Candy, voice vote.
All right. Let me get that signed.
Candy, is your microphone on?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's my mask, I guess, right? Wunsch,
Yes.
Folly,
Yes.
Feshin,
Yes.
Glish,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Philo,
Yes.
Stitch.
Yes.
All right, perfect. All right, 7B, revision to the snow and ice control program for the Village of Oregon. Jeff did a nice memo and explanation. Jeff, you want to give us any highlights you want to tell us about?
Just so for new board members and everybody is, we annually meet as a department, and we go over kind of that year's plowing plans, as well as I work with Nick this year in determining kind of, we have had a few retires in the last year, so that's, have to reassign some routes and do some training and everything. But we do go through our annual snowplow policy, just to update that with any new roadways or anything. It's not always perfect, but it does. As a village, we accept this and we adopt this hopefully, and that allows residents, we do post it on the website. Candy does a great job with that, and it's, just kind of allows people to understand why isn't this road being plowed before other roads. And it's gonna be snow time.
All right. Any questions for Jeff? So Jeff, you're looking for a motion to accept that?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so if there's no questions, Luke, do you have, or you make a motion? Okay. Oh, Amanda, do you have a question?
Yeah, I did. I'm trying to remember now. I didn't write it down at the time when I was reading it, but there was something that there's a part in here where it says that all roads will be salted at the same time they're plowed, but then in an earlier paragraph, it said, first we're gonna plow and then we're gonna apply salt later
Right,
as needed.
Yeah, the direction that we've given to them is that, the first pass should be plowing, and then second pass, when they're cleaning up, should be the salting. And that's not a perfect formula, because there are certain areas and intersections that really should get salted every time we go through.
Okay, yeah, I don't know, I'll find the page
Okay.
and I'll let you know, but
Yeah, if
it's,
there's a
then you might wanna
conflict,
take
just
out
shoot-
that one sentence that.
Shoot me an
is a
email
little
if you think
confusing.
there's something that we need to
Yeah, will do,
modify.
just so it's clear.
Yep.
That was
All
it.
right, so we got a motion from Luke. You need a second? Carleen? All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
7C is services agreement with the Midwest Alarm Services Incorporated for fire alarm system monitoring and inspection for 101 Alpine Parkway. Jeff, is this yours?
Yep,
I think?
this
Okay.
is mine.
Do you wanna,
I can-
anybody
okay.
have any questions on it, or
It's just
maybe?
another contract that we have in place. You'll see a couple more of these come through, one for the elevator coming soon, that, for the new building, and,
Just to get things set in place for us?
well, yeah, getting things transferred from Oregon Community Bank or One Community Bank to us. These are the individuals that actually installed the system, the panel. It's fairly new, and maybe 3 or 4 years old, and they've been servicing it since. I've actually met with the representative who handles our account here, and that is an Oregon resident, so it's kind of nice in keeping things fairly local for now.
Okay, all right. Jerry, question?
Jeff, you
Mike?
said for now, what do you mean by that?
I mean, we continue to always evaluate services over time, where there are times where we sometimes, depending on service, depending on how we feel about how things are going, sometimes we will go out and seek additional vendors for.
Okay, so in other words, in the future, you may be taking bids.
Well, yeah, we do that with everything. yeah.
Right, okay.
All right, Mike?
So this is unlike the cleaning contract in the sense this is a 3-year deal. Correct.
This is, yes, this is a three-year contract. The cleaning contract was not a 3-year contract, but, this is a 3-year. I try to limit things to no more than 3 years. Because we've been stuck sometimes with some 5-year contracts that, in the past, that have not helped us out.
Okay.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion and a second on this one. Amanda and Luke? Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, we're on to 7D, and I guess E too, sort of related. Is the agreement for land division improvements for Highlands and Netherwood, Phase 3A, the villas. And then E is resolution number 2149, consenting to the vacation of lots 1, 2, 5 of the plat of Highlands and Netherwood. Matt, I know there was a little confusion, some board members looking at this. Can you kind of walk us through this one, what this all means?
Sure. Let's do the second one first, because I think it's easier.
Okay.
When the replat of the Highlands of Netherwood was done and approved, there was some redrawing of the lot lines to reconfigure some of the lots. And there were several outlots that were in the original replat that were not properly released before the replat was approved. And so the title company is looking at the replat and certain lots and saying, hey, this lot is still got part of this outlot in it. And that needs to be corrected. And they have a somewhat difficult process they have to go through to get it done. They have to actually get a judicial order approving the release of those outlots. The village board has vetted the whole process and agrees that these outlots should be, and the lot lines should be readjusted as shown. In fact, we approved the replat. The developers asked the village board to adopt a resolution supporting their request to the court to correct this, essentially this mistake that needs to be corrected. So that's the resolution that's before you tonight, is to support their request for correcting that problem. Any questions about that one before we go to the other one? Okay. So the other issue is, so we have a master development agreement for this whole development. This development is being developed in phases, meaning the public improvements are going in and lots are being sold in phases. Phases 1 and 2 are completed. Phase 3, we have an agreement for Phase 3 and the work has been underway and it's probably nearly completed for Phase 3.
Yeah,
Yep.
getting there.
What made this a little complicated in terms of Phase 3 is when they submitted, the developers submitted plans and specifications for everything that's shown as Phase 3 on that map that Jeff has up there, including the area that's shown as Phase 3A. And as I understand it, the plans and specifications were approved, the village's engineer signed off on that, but the developer didn't have the financial resources or wherewithal to actually put in all of the public improvements for all of Phase 3, what was being described as Phase 3. That included both what's being called the villas and what's being called the flats. So the Phase 3A area shown there, that's what the developer is calling the villas. And then the flats is right next to it. So the developer moved forward with putting in public improvements for all of Phase 3, not including the villas and not including the flats. Recently, the developer requested the approval from Jeff to proceed with installing public improvements for the villas. And so and we met with the developer last week to talk about how that might be done at this point. And what's before you tonight is a kind of our standard format for moving forward with the next phase of development. It's a relatively short agreement saying, okay, you can move forward with what we're now calling Phase 3A. we clarified in this agreement that everyone agrees that phase 3 does not include the villas and does not include the flats. We're saying you can go forward with phase 3A, and then the other piece of this was that we agreed that the letter of credit that the village is currently holding for phase 3 will apply and will be available to secure their obligation to put in the phase 3A public improvements for the villas. And the only tricky part about that was just Jeff being comfortable that that the phase 3 letter of credit is adequate to cover both the remaining phase 3 work and the phase 3A work. And Jeff has told us that he is comfortable with that, given the amount of work that's already been done. So if the board approves this agreement, the developer will be able to move forward with the installation of the public improvements needed to serve phase 3A. And that's important to them, they tell us, because they're hoping to close on the sale of that yet this fall to the developer that's going to do the rest of to build out the rest of that in terms of the private improvements. And so they're hoping to get the ability to move forward with the public improvement piece this fall so they can close and stay on schedule. Did I miss anything, Jeff?
No, Jeff
Okay.
agrees.
Okay.
All right.
Any questions about
Yeah,
that?
any questions for Matt? On this, clear as mud, huh? It gets a little complicated, doesn't it, Matt, sometimes?
Well, the meeting with the developer to work this out took probably 2 hours.
Yes, it did, yeah, yeah. All right, so Matt, would you like us to take these separately? Would you like them?
Yeah,
Okay,
probably,
Martin's
yeah.
shaking his head, so let's take 7D, let's take the agreement for land division improvements for Highlands of Netherwood Phase 3A, the villas. We'll take a motion in a second. Amanda's giving me a sign for a motion. Can we get a second, somebody? All right, Derek, any other discussion, questions for Matt? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then let's take 7E, was Resolution 2149, a resolution consenting the vacation of lots 1, 2, and 5 of the plat of the Highlands of Netherwood. We'll take a motion in a second to that one. Amanda and Luke, any other questions, discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Matt?
By the way,
got-
there's
Oh.
on 2149, it says vacation, not vacation, just,
Is there a spelling error in there?
yeah.
Did I say it
There, right
wrong
there.
too,
No,
Connie?
no,
Well, the faction. Okay.
it says vaction.
No,
Like
Dan
as in
O'Callahan drafted.
All right, vacation. All right,
I
I
think the
think I
court will
saw it in
still.
another
We knew
place
it.
as well,
Yeah.
so just.
Okay.
all right.
Now, can I ask, I do want to ask one question. Are the flats affordable housing or no?
I don't,
No, okay.
no.
they're not.
I think-
What,
not.
there was conversation when we were talking about the library about affordable housing that's going over that way. Where is that? Is it anywhere in that
That's-
map?
That's
That's
the,
North Point Development.
that's the North Point
That's
one.
North
Point,
Point.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, got it. Thank you. I don't know where that street is. so that's-
All right,
It's gonna be right
And
north
just
of
to be
all
clear,
of
that the flats is still, I don't think they have a owner yet on the flats. So we have yet to really know, they
What
have the
that's
building
gonna be.
layout and the number of buildings, they just don't have a buyer,
Got
builder
it.
yet that is doing those yet.
Thank you.
and one of them is condos. Which one is it that
The
the
villas will be a condominium.
condos? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so, although it's not technically considered workforce housing or affordable housing, it is a different housing type that will probably come in at a lower price point than other housing types in that development, so,
Mhm.
Mhm.
for what it's worth.
Yeah. All right, let's go to 7F, which is the agreement to undertake development in Village of Oregon Tax Increment District Number 4 between the Village of Oregon and JAD Partnership LLC related to the surcharging the site for the proposed Bike and Brew development. And I know Matt's been working on this a lot. We have the agreement in our packet. Matt, what do you want to say about this?
So the board did authorize the preparation of an agreement to provide funding for surcharging the soil at this site. The agreement authorizes up to, I think it's $55,000 as reimbursement for the actual cost of that work once it's completed and we have documentation of the actual cost. I believe their intent is to start as soon as possible, like tomorrow. The agreement also is set up so that if the developer here, Jamie Bush, doesn't follow through and put a new building on that site by the deadline specified in the agreement, then he's required to refund that $55,000 to the village, and he is personally guaranteeing that obligation.
And Matt, I think I think that was really smart. I mean, I think this protects the village. If it doesn't happen, we get our money back. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you know, the fact that it's a personal obligation that he has gives you pretty good protection, and so, yep, should be.
All right, questions? Yeah, Jerry's got.
Where does the 55,000 come from initially?
So the TID 4 does have a fund balance. It's got about $341,000 in it, so we'll pull it from there.
All right, and again, the pay-go incentive of $89,000, that won't affect the taxpayer at all.
And that's to be evaluated yet.
Oh, that's-
That part of it, yeah. So
Okay.
this would only be for the upfront cash grant of $55,000 for the soil.
So it's not, we're not certain that they're gonna do pay-go? Is that what it is?
The 55,000 is not
No,
being-
no, I
you know,
mean-
on the other piece is not before you yet. We don't, I mean, that's not being authorized tonight by this agreement.
Right, okay.
To be determined yet on that
Yeah,
one.
Yeah.
okay.
Mike, did you ever hear that on this?
That was what I wanted to be sure, was that the guarantee exists regardless of whether or not we approve the pay-go or not. Correct.
Yeah, correct, yep.
All right, anybody else?
Just a quick clarifying question. So the, what page this is in, the first, page 7F. There's two things listed. One is 55,000, the next is pay-go incentive of 89,868. But tonight, we're just talking about the 55,000.
Yep, that's correct. So
Yeah.
this would just be an agreement to provide the cash grant upfront of $55,000 for the soil work. And then we still need to talk to them about the pay-go incentive and if they want to move forward with that or not.
Yeah, so our motion is just for the 55,000, authorizing that tonight. Anybody want to do a motion in a second to approve that? Luke and Amanda? Any other discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, okay. Let's see, then we are on 7G, resolution number 2148 to adopt Village of Oregon Ward Plan and to combine municipal wards for voting purposes. Candy, would you like to say something on this? You
Well, I
work.
can answer any questions. Redistricting is probably one of my favorite words, like recalls and recounts. But I just wanted to say that I was fortunate enough to have Miss Carleen ask if she could be involved when we got our districting assignment of the ward boundaries, and she was of great help to me when I went to look at where like the new developments were going to be and projected over the next 10 years. So she was very helpful for me, and this is where we came to the conclusion of.
Okay. Any questions for Candy? Yeah, it looks like a lot of work and. yeah.
So I'm just gonna give a shout out to Candy, because she actually knows where things are happening and what makes the most sense and how voting happens and how these boundaries and things affect voting. And she's looking long-term to where polling places may need to be in the future based on all kinds of different redistricting things and where population is and where the new village hall is gonna be and all of that. So this is not just about right now and the next election. This is a long-term thing. It's for 10 years. And I'll just make a editorial comment that I know for her and for me and for anybody who's keeping up with this, the frustrating part is that our legislature does not have to abide by these lines. This is the desirable thing for this municipality and what we would like to see happen here, but they can decide anything they want and ignore it. And that's the unfortunate piece, because a lot of work has gone in at the local level.
Okay. Anything
And
else?
I should
Yeah.
mention too, like voting trends themselves are changing. So we
Mhm.
have a lot of people absentee voting now, and
Mhm.
I foresee that probably continuing. So as we look at polling places or in our future, that could really play a big part as well. So.
Okay. Yeah, Amanda?
Do we have to say for the record that this was done in a nonpartisan manner?
You-
Just to be very clear
You
with
just said
people?
it.
Just,
Yeah.
this is not looking at any party
Right.
affiliations of
Mhm.
anybody. This is all, this is local.
Yeah.
We don't run as part of a party, so,
Correct.
It's
Local
all
level
right.
is nonpartisan.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing that's even emphasized that point here in the village, you folks all run village-wide.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Right.
it's,
Right.
it's not gonna matter in terms of your elections, where you draw the lines,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because you're elected village-wide,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
No aldermanic districts, which is nice.
which it makes life
Yeah.
a lot easier here, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so it looks like we're looking for,
I just want to
yeah.
point out one more thing that I think it points to what Candy needed to really think about and deal with and how she redrew areas. If you look under where it says review and census information, just that table on the left where she's highlighted Ward 9 and Ward 10 and how large that population was, she didn't actually have to change that because she was still within the threshold of 600 to 2,100, which is where the village is for its wards. But, for voting purposes, it makes it really kind of, traffic jam, I'll just put it. I mean, there's just a lot of things that you run into. And even though we don't have aldermanic districts, it makes a big difference. And so adding a ward and thinking toward future and how people and where people will vote, those are some of the kinds of things. And then literally playing around with it on a map and shading things in and looking at population is, it's new technology, but it's really helpful and you did a great job. You just really did a nice job. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Otherwise, we'll take a motion in a second. Oh, Mike's got a comment?
Motion.
All right, Mike and then Carleen?
Yep.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes. We're on to 8, report of committees, items, discussion, possible action, we have none. 9, unfinished business, we have none. 10 is new business. 10A is proposals for diversity, equity, inclusion training and initiatives. Martin, you want to say anything about, you're looking for some direction on this?
Yeah, we're looking for some feedback from the board. If you had a chance to read my memo, talking a
Mhm.
little bit about the background. Last year, the board committed to doing some sort of training for village staff and elected officials, put some money aside in the budget this year. We went through our strategic plan process earlier this year and kind of reinforced that this is a priority. And we intend to roll these funds over into 22. I know Candy and Chief Pagankoff have kind of worked to identify some different opportunities, obviously with the pandemic, and we had some staff turnover and some changes, and these programs are in super high demand right now. We finally have been able to get 2 proposals for consideration, and so they're in the packet there for you to review. Both the 2 options, they have different approaches, but certainly viable, each of them. One is definitely more of a straightforward kind of training scope, and then the other approach, the Nehemiah approach, is a lot more programmatic. It kind of looks at training and different ideas and initiatives. So wanted to get these 2 options in front of you and see what your feedback was and how you'd like to proceed.
So Martin, I did like your number 3 suggestion too, as a possible, the formation of diversity committee and giving it to them and let them, as their first kind of formal action as a committee, determine which one. I don't know how other people think. One of the 2 proposals, or give it to diversity committee? What do we think? All right, Carleen and then Amanda?
I like the idea of a formation of a diversity committee. And I also think that it would be nice to hear from board members what they think about these proposals. I know I have some thoughts on them, but I do like the idea of forming a diversity committee. Not necessarily to do this, but could do this.
Yeah. Okay, Amanda?
Yeah, so we had $20,000 set aside for this?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I was really torn reading these. I think they both sound like excellent proposals. I almost want to take them both, but I don't, I don't know how other people feel about that, but that would mean putting more money towards it. I know I've been dying to take the Black History for a New Day. I've been waiting years, like at least 3 years since I've been on the board, but it's always on Monday nights. So if we got to do this, and I love the fact that if we went with them, they have like 50 people can take it. We could do the whole village staff. That's a whole lot of people getting some excellent background. So I sort of lean that way just because I've wanted to do it, but I would be willing to put more money towards it to do both, actually. That's kind of where I am.
Carleen?
I have taken the Black History for a New Day class twice and been a facilitator with the class and done volunteer work with Nehemiah. I personally would lean more towards that because it is a more holistic approach and because they are closer to us. I mean, we actually have people who work for Nehemiah who live in the village and are already working with the school district. So I think it gives some continuity between the village and the school district. Not to take anything away from the other program at all. It's more a matter for me of familiarity and proximity and the holistic nature of their programming.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, I also lean pretty heavily, having read this, to the Nehemiah proposal. I think you get limited value out of a couple hour training sessions with individuals, and the much more holistic approach of Nehemiah, I think, and their willingness to work with various village entities, I think we would get better bang for our buck. I'm really interested in their community training program. It not only saves us money, but actually expands the program into the village as a whole. I guess personally, I mean, I support the diversity, forming a diversity committee and things, but I would not hold this up for that. I think they can go in parallel.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah. Derek.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pretty much echo what Carleen and Mike just said. I reading this, I found the Nehemiah proposal a bit more broad in the fact that they are already working with the school district. I do believe just lends itself to crossover between departments, so I'm leaning more that way. And again, with Martin, realistically, what's the timeline on that, the Diversity and Inclusion Committee?
I think realistically, probably the early part of next year. I think when we get into talking about Chapter 1 and 2 of the ordinances, possibly in December and January, getting those things together, and we don't have to wait on those chapters to set these up at all, but you know, I could foresee in the spring having a committee together and having their first meetings.
Okay, so we're kind of realistically, we're looking at appointing people at the April meeting, basically, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with Mike on that too. Then I wouldn't necessarily hold it up for waiting for the committee.
If I could mention something, I believe when we did speak with Nehemiah, that the justified anger course wouldn't start until February anyway.
Yeah, you're correct.
So just thinking
Okay.
that in your
The Black History for
Yeah,
a New
Black
Day
History.
starts every year in February.
Yeah,
And
so
that,
we wouldn't be able to,
yeah, and that's a great precursor to anything else you do.
yep.
Okay.
If you haven't taken it, take it.
All right, anybody else? Somebody want to come forward with a motion in a second?
Randy, can I just share a little bit?
You may,
Yeah, thank you.
sure, Chief.
So, and I apologize, I was really busy in the office, so I didn't get a chance to read this memo, that you're referring to, but to give a little bit of background, so, over the last, I would say, year, I've been meeting with individuals who represent the diversity in our community and, creating a relationship with them. We've been meeting, I would say, almost on a monthly basis now. They consist of staff that works here. They consist of our youth and parents. And there's a variety, and it's growing. I did let this group know that I'm meeting with that this was coming up, and one of the ideas was kicking it over to a new diversity, equity, and inclusion group. The reason I bring this up is I do think it would be a really good first project for them is picking the training. This is the village's very first step in that right direction. And I think providing that voice to people that right now are in the dugout waiting for this committee to be formed, I think this would be an amazing first project. And for all I know, they'd pick Nehemiah too. I don't know. But I think for the village to develop this new DEI group, in my opinion, and I'll be very straightforward, they have to do it the right way. I do think them having a say in this training would be a great first step. Just my 2 cents. For what it's worth, whether they're a recognized committee or not, this is a group now that I work with. We have very honest, straightforward conversations, and they don't hold back. We know each other very well. And anytime they call, they can reach me, and we talk about whether it's an issue, whether it's a training idea, whatever it may be. And for what it's worth, they've been incredibly helpful. So I would just hate to see the village not take advantage of this. And that's even if these people are on the committee. But I think sending that message of this is an idea we already have of a project, I think it's going to, my hopes is it's going to encourage even more people to want to join this team of people if they know already out of the gate one of the projects this group's going to work on. And it's a big one. So just my 2 cents. I'd be happy to take questions about the group I'm meeting with.
I think that's a really great point, and as a middle-class, middle-aged white woman, I realize that, I have a tendency to step into voids and make decisions, and it's time to shut up and step back.
And I've been there too, Carleen, and yeah.
Okay, yeah, so.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I mean, you raised a good point. The question that I have is I really hate putting this off because it's already been a year or 2 year and a half since it's passed, and it was way overdue when it was passed. Is there a way to either expedite the formation of the village committee or a way to involve the group that you're working in choosing, in helping the village choose this? That we could move forward with actually starting to get this scheduled without stepping on toes.
Yeah, no, I think we could expedite it. I mean, we could come back next meeting and start talking about it.
What Mike said, that's what, that's perfect.
All right, so sounds like what I'm hearing, I don't want to put words, but it sounds like maybe the formation of the committee, expediting that. I do think that this would be a great first project for that committee.
Yeah. The Black History for a New Day course would start as soon as February, and so I don't want to miss that deadline, because then the next one is the fall, probably, like October. We're looking like a year from now, and that's way too long.
What does expediting look like?
So, I think, I'm just sitting here thinking about it. So I think we could have maybe a draft ordinance of what a committee could look like as far as their duties, responsibilities, how it's composed, that sort of thing. I think we could put something together for the next meeting and have the board look at it. Come back maybe at the meeting after that, following some feedback from the board, and then we could potentially approve a committee in December.
And then once a committee's approved, then you put it out for who wants to participate, and and Chief, at that point, there'd be people who maybe you would approach or possibly recommend?
Yes, definitely. And I think with that said, if this comes out to our village staff and to the community of this wasn't just a group of white people that picked this train.
Right,
This is,
right.
people are directly
Mhm.
impacted by these things improving. And that really, you know, sends the right message.
Mike?
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the process would be, but is there, once we have a feasible draft, whether or not it's appeared before the board or not, is it possible to get some feedback from the group that the chief is working with on that? Because regardless, it's a bunch of white people in the room formulating this.
Are you saying on the
otherwise.
roles and responsibilities of that committee? Is that what your
Yes.
question is? Okay.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
clarify.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I already sent them all of the information prior to this meeting.
All right. Somebody want to make a motion then? Sounds like we're ready.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, wait, Martin?
No?
Hold on, Martin's got something.
Yeah, I guess a motion, otherwise we could just come back at the next meeting and we'll talk about the committee. And we'll just
Yeah,
we'll
that's
let the
fine.
proposals
All right.
rest for now and
All right,
we'll come
so
back to it.
I was thinking that we would make a motion to move with the committee.
Yeah,
But
that's
we-
fine. Go.
Is that okay with everybody,
Yeah,
that we
absolutely.
would choose that
Sure.
option? Somebody want to make that motion?
Yeah, I'd make that
All right,
motion.
Carleen?
I make a motion that we expedite the process for creating a committee on diversity, equity, and inclusion for the Village of Oregon and bring it back to the board ASAP for approval and run the roles and responsibilities by the chief's group. I don't know what you call it. Do you have a name?
We've kicked around a few names, but it's,
I'm just gonna call it the chief's group.
bridging or, you know, collaboration.
Mhm.
But yeah, they're just an amazing group of people right now, so I guess that's the best way to describe them.
All right.
All right, I think we got a second by Derek, right? Okay. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, okay. All right, we have 10B, training on local government ethics, conflicts of interest, public records, and public meetings. Martin put some information in our packet for us to look at so we don't get in trouble. So, I don't think we need to say anything else about that, Martin, do we?
Well, I can talk about it as much or as little as you like. But yeah, if you want to just leave it at questions, I'm fine with that as well.
Do you want to, is that just for info, Martin, or is that?
Yeah, so a couple meetings back, we had a
Yeah.
kind of an exchange on ethics for elected officials, and we kind of left it as maybe just doing a re-education, an educational primer on some of the laws that affect our elected officials and employees and staff here, and so I put together a brief 16-page report, but as descriptive but as brief as I could, to make it at least somewhat valuable, and used a lot of resources from the League of Wisconsin Municipalities in putting this together. But yeah, covering all the stuff that is kind of a sticky point or gets kind of prickly with conflicts of interest and ethics and public meetings and public records, all the things that we run into quite a
Mhm.
bit. And then, of course, I just kind of put a little bit about just local government in general and in Wisconsin, and kind of provide a baseline of understanding for that. So I mean, I can go through it or answer questions or whatever you want me to do.
So I do have a question.
Go ahead, Carmen.
So I do a lot of things in public. I work for a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization, and I'm part of the Oregon Area Progressives, and I'm on the village board now. Is it safe to say that if I say when I'm in those public settings, I'm not saying this as this does not represent my opinion as a member of the village board, this is my personal opinion, or this is my professional opinion in my work capacity, that's enough separation? If I make it really clear that I'm not speaking for the board or in my capacity as a board member. I am a board member, but I'm over here.
I'll give that my best shot. So I think in terms of making it clear that you're not speaking on behalf of the village with authority from the village on a particular point. That's easy to do, and that should help that should clear things up if anyone's wondering about that. That's, I think what is harder for me to get my hands around is for you to try and to separate yourself in that way and say, you know, I'm not speaking on, not only am I not speaking on behalf of the Village of Oregon, a municipal corporation, but now I'm not even gonna speak with any part of me that has any part of my village trustee-ish personality involved. That gets harder because, I mean, you're one person, right?
Right, exactly.
So I think it's possible for you to say, I'm not representing the village when I speak to this issue. I'm representing myself. That's fine, you could do that. But when you wear many hats.
I do. We all do.
And I don't know how you can, I mean, I don't know how you can not wear all the hats all the time in a way. But it is easy to say, I'm not speaking on behalf of the village now, and that's a fair thing to say, and you can do that. So I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it kind of does, and I think by the same token, I can say when I'm here, I have some experience in this from these other places, not
Yeah.
unlike what I said about what Candy does.
Right. And that's part of who you are, and that's
Right.
part of what you bring to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanna.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So, Martin, I appreciate, because this keeps us out of trouble.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if I could just impart one thought, and kind of building off what Carlene was talking about is, you know, these are complicated laws. They're not always black and white, and, you know, we're here to help you, and myself and Candy do a lot of training in our professions on these matters, and obviously the village attorney is here to assist you as well. So if you have questions, or you're not certain, or there's a specific scenario, you know, just reach out and we'll help, and we'll provide advice.
All right, very good. Yeah, Amanda?
Yeah, I had some follow-ups too. One thing that I'd like the village board to consider for a future thing is adding to an ethics ordinance or whatever, that we're going to agree to not use personal emails for village business. It's not an ethics violation to do that, like at the state level, right? It's not, there's nothing illegal about using your personal email for it, but the way I understand it is if I were to use personal email to do village business, and someone did a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act, and said, I want all your stuff related to X topic between these dates, whatever, that it's on the person's honor to turn over everything. And while I know that we're all trustworthy, I have no doubt about that, I totally believe that, but I don't think that's good, transparent government. And I feel like in order to make sure that we are complying, you know, and this would be binding for future boards then too, by saying that we all pledge to not use personal emails for village business, it's a stronger commitment to that transparency. Because the stuff that, if you use your village email to communicate with constituents exclusively, that all gets backed up on the village servers. And if there's a FOIA request, the village takes care of it. And that way it's not dependent on the trustee to turn over what they have, maybe, you know? That's my views on it. I don't know how everybody feels about it, but I think that's a good policy to have.
I can give you a very initial reaction, which is, I mean, I understand the place that's coming from, and certainly from my advice to the local government officials is always use your village account to conduct village business for many of the reasons that you've given, Amanda, that if there is a public records request, for example, it's easy for us to run a search on the server and we can retrieve those, and we don't have to ask individual trustees to go search their personal accounts to locate records that would be responsive to that request. So There are good, strong, practical reasons for doing that. I'd want to think carefully before enacting an ordinance that makes it part of our ethics code, for example, that requires that for a couple of reasons. One is, it's not always easy to know where the line is between conducting village business by email and engaging in political activities that are properly done on personal or other accounts that are not village business per se, but it's not always easy to know where to draw the line, okay? For one thing, and I wouldn't want to put you all in position of potentially violating the local ethics code because you drew the line in the wrong place. I think we can achieve I think the better approach is to reinforce with you all the value of using your village email accounts to conduct village business and to kind of reinforce that regularly so you're aware of that. And I going the extra step and making it part of the ethics code, my initial reaction is that gets complicated, and I don't know that, I'd be careful about doing it. I'd want you to think about it. I'd want to think about it, does this make sense? What are the downsides potentially? Partly because this line drawing always gets a little complicated. Like when you're running a campaign, for example, for village trustee, and let's say you're a sitting trustee and you're up for re-election, you're running a campaign and you're engaging in that process, you might be speaking about village issues, but I don't know that you either could or should be using your village email account for that purpose. And I don't know how to draw the line in such a way that makes sense to me. So I'd be careful with that. But
one way that I've seen it addressed in the previous community I worked in is board adopted a policy. Basically, it said that we're going to have village emails, we're going to get village devices issued to us, laptops, tablets, whatever, that we can use and we can take with us wherever we're going to go. And we encourage everybody to use those village emails, and if you don't, you're kind of on your own for public records requests. You're at your own risk at that point. And as I kind of mentioned in my report here, that those public records requests can get very messy. And if there's reason to believe that you aren't providing a record, or you destroyed a record or withheld a record, it's not uncommon to get courts to issue subpoenas for personal devices and all sorts of things to get that record. So that's how I've seen it handled in other communities, just to give the elected officials the tools to do it, have a laptop, have an email, and then encourage that those things to be used for that purpose.
Okay.
And did you include, I didn't see it, we do have an ethics code of some sort in the village.
And in fact, the village has developed its own ethics code that builds on the state code of ethics for local government officials and actually goes beyond it in certain respects. I think my recollection is the one thing I remember really changing it is the definition of immediate family, I think.
Okay.
So it's more expansive in the village than it is under state statute.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you for this.
All right. Let's go to future agenda items. We're almost there. Derek, do you have something first?
Yeah, can we backtrack to 10A just for a second? Something just kind of popped in my head as far as the diversity, equity, and inclusion proposals go. And if this is all right with the rest of the board member, Alice Egan at one point had set up a diversity and equity inclusion group within the village. As far as reviewing the proposals, if we're talking about having the chiefs group, whoever they are, look into it, I'd like to include that group as well, because as me and the chief have discussed at several points, is not everyone is comfortable going to the police to discuss matters. You may find different voices in different groups. it's just another one of those cases where I think it's probably better to have more eyes on this than less. So, you know, Martin, if you can reach out to her as well, as far as looking into those proposals, I guess that's where I'd like to see it go. I don't know if anyone has any objections to that, but just wanted to throw it out there.
No, yeah, I can send it along. But yeah, it's in the packets on the website. It's out there, and anybody who wants to review it can review it. But yeah, I'll send it directly.
So, can I clarify?
Sure.
Is this just for we're reaching out to get their feedback
Correct.
on the committee?
Yeah, this is.
That's it?
On the
not to-
committee and on the proposals from Nehemiah and, I'm sorry, I forget the other
Well,
one's name.
that's not until the committee's formed, though.
Is that how we're approaching this? Because
I
I was,
thought that's-
I was under the
The
impression.
The committee's
Right
gonna be
now-
formed and make
Okay.
the decision
Right, we're
then.
expediting the committee forming so they
Gotcha.
can make the decision.
Okay.
And if I could comment, I think that's a really good idea, because I don't think we want to pit one group against
No.
another
No.
here. We just really want positive change,
Right.
and we want the ability to have voice in this, so I think it would be best to form that committee first, yeah.
But the people in both of those groups still have to go through the application process to be on the committee if they want to be on the official committee, right? Is
Yeah.
that what we're saying?
We're just asking for comment.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I'm just a little confused about the committee. What, is there
The
is this intended to be this is intended to be a village board created committee?
Correct.
Not a standing committee of the board, but.
Correct, yeah.
And so is that gonna be, I'm just a little confused, I don't understand exactly what the process is. Maybe I don't need to, but is this coming back to the board for like with a list of, because most of our committees, you know, are there provided
So
by
people,
ordinance, the
Matt,
village president
people
appoints?
fill out an application, I want to be part of the diversity committee.
So, yeah, so the step is, the board wants to expedite the creation of a formal diversity committee. That'll be a village board created committee. It won't be a standing committee, it'll be citizen appointments, and potentially a board member. And so that will be the first thing that we work on. We'll get through that, and then we will have an application process that will allow the public to apply for the nominations for this committee, just like any other committee that we have. And then we'll have Randy make the nominations, and then the board would confirm those nominations.
So is there gonna be a resolution or ordinance that would define like the
Yes.
number of people on the
Yes,
committee?
so that would be the
what
first
the term
part of
is?
the expedited review of creating a committee, would be the creation of an ordinance for
Okay.
that. Yep.
And my understanding, at least from what I said, what I think I said, was that Chief's group would give input onto the roles and responsibilities
Yep.
of the members of that committee. So
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
what
And
you're
so we
asking.
can
I'm
share.
just asking that we
An
add on to
additional
that,
group.
to that
Right.
additional
Right.
group.
To
Yep.
have
Yeah.
input into that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, and in the process of creating the committee itself, to your point about roles and responsibilities, is the board going to establish going to define a role for the committee? Typically, committees serve in
Yes.
an advisory capacity to the board
Yes.
on
Yeah.
a certain set of issues. So is that gonna be part of the, like, the mission statement will be
Yes.
developed
So
as
we'll-
part of
we'll-
the creation process?
We'll define the role and responsibility of the committee through the ordinance, and
Okay.
we'll talk about it at the next meeting.
All right.
All right, let's wrap this up. Future agenda items. Anybody have anything? All right, then we'll take it 13 or 12. Looks like it's misnumbered, but we'll take adjournment. Can we get a motion? All right, Mike, second. Carlene, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.